this concept of sin as missing the target, or this definition of sin, I think is incredibly important.
Hamartia is the Greek word, and it's literally an archery term, but it's also, the word for sin in ancient Hebrew is also an archery term. And so, and there's other languages where that's the case, but it's really important to understand that that notion is predicated on this target-seeking psychophysiology, and that's unbelievably deeply built into us, as you pointed out. You know, our eyes are target established. Well, it's so important to us that we infer aim from gaze. Not only do we infer aim from gaze, we mimic the psychophysiological state of the target that we're watching as a consequence of our inference of aim from gaze. So if I can see what you're looking at, then I can occupy the same psychophysiological state that you do, and that's the basis of my understanding.
Oh, this is so important, and there's something that I've never talked about on this or any other podcast, which is that in humans, we have a massive expansion of an area of the frontal cortex called the frontal eye fields. So there's circuitry deep in the brain. If you want to look it up, it's superior colliculus. It's also called the tectum in other species. It means roof. It's the roof of the midbrain, et cetera, that generate reflexive eye movements. You stimulate in there, it's like a machine. In fact, a colleague of mine who's now retired at Stanford, Eric Knudsen, who did some beautiful work on neuroplasticity, was describing an experiment where they take out the frontal cortex of these owls. Owls are, because they don't have much eye movements. They move their head almost all the way around, right? And they use this for homing in on their targets. The owl or a monkey or a human, in the absence of a prefrontal cortex or suppression of prefrontal cortex, becomes like a machine. You click here, they look there.
Right.
You click here, they look there.
Right.
Puppies are like this. Kittens are like this. Everything's a stimulus. Why? Because there isn't that top-down inhibition of those reflexes. In humans, we have an area.
That's why a cat with no brain is hyper-exploratory.
Everything's a target.
Everything's a target. Everything is a target.
And there's no context-dependent learning.
Yeah.
Right. I love that you gave the example of the decerebrate cats. They even can do fictive motion. They can walk on a treadmill, and it's like with no cortex. It's amazing.
It is amazing.
Makes you rethink the cortex.